Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. Before we get started with today's house programming, we'd like to share a few housekeeping notes. Today's program will be a series of presentations and conversations, with the remaining time at the end of today's program reserved for Q&A and conversation with attendees. During the question and answer portion of the conversation, you're encouraged to ask questions by typing your questions, and at the very end, we'll encourage you to unmute yourselves to have a conversation. The chat function to ask questions and have comments is found at the bottom of your screen. We do ask that you remain muted when not speaking in order to alleviate feedback. Should you have any technical issues, please do not hesitate to message us via the chat function so that we can ensure that you have the best experience. Please also note that today's program is being recorded for archival purposes. And now I'll hand it over to Elisabeth Agro for our official introductions. Elisabeth?
Thank you, Lindsay. I want to first say thank you, Lindsay and Linnea, for coordinating this two-day symposium and for all your technical support. Without it, we couldn't have done it. So I appreciate you being partners. I'd like to begin by acknowledging that we are located on the lands of the Lenni Lenape people. We pay respect to the Lenape peoples past, present, and future, and their continuing presence in the homeland and throughout the Lenape diaspora. Welcome to our program today. I'm Elisabeth Agro, the Nancy M. McNeil Curator of American Modern and Contemporary Craft and Decorative Arts at the Philadelphia Museum of Art. In January, I offered to host CraftNOW's Cultures of Making Symposium in the Philadelphia Museum of Art's Perlman Building Auditorium. By the end of April, it was clear that the symposium had to pivot to a virtual format, dashing our hope for us to be together in a physical space. The committee worked together to reimagine this event, dividing it into two afternoons, today and last week on October 30th. The theme of craft and activism was selected specifically in order to fortify us all during these difficult days surrounding the election. During the symposium, we intended to offer an opportunity to engage our hands in making in an effort to thwart any unpent feelings of stress and anxiety. We all know that craft has a history of going hand in hand with activism and advocacy, but it can also be a salve and a source of meditation. Impossible to recreate this virtually, we encourage you to check out the wide variety of craft kits sold by Wild Hand, a Philadelphia-based community that believes in magic of fibercraft, bringing people together who share a vision of an imaginative and just world. Wild Hand is offering a discount to all of our attendees through their online store, and I'll place their code and information in the chat for those who are interested. There is no substitute for actually being together, but I ask you to indulge me. Let's all transport ourselves to the museum's auditorium in the Perlman Building. Seated together, I'm standing at the podium in front of you now, and let me set up our conversation for today. A hotbed for workshops of all craft media dating back to 1751, craft has deep roots in Philadelphia. Craft as an art form is part of our city's identity, past and present. Philadelphia Museum of Art is a distinguished leader in the field of modern contemporary craft and shapes this rapid evolving field that is critical to its continued mission today. The multiplicity that makes up the Philadelphia craft community drives this art form to proliferate, thrive, and morph, redefining and blurring the boundaries of craft with each passing year. The museum and its principal stakeholders in Philadelphia's craft community are the power behind an intensified current, galvanizing Philadelphia as a craft capital. Each November, the Philadelphia Museum of Art Craft Show and CraftNOW, in collaboration with our craft community, band together to demonstrate how craft is embraced and celebrated throughout our city. Before handing over the baton to Leila Cartier, I encourage you to visit the Philadelphia Museum of Art's Craft Show, which is presented virtually beginning today through Sunday, November 8th, and details will also be placed in the chat. I encourage you to support the many artists who are showcased, and in doing so, support my museum's most important fundraiser. The event is free this year, and we only ask that you make a donation if you are so inclined. In these fiscally difficult times, we need you more than ever. Thank you and enjoy today's proceedings. Leila, I'm handing it over to you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Elisabeth. I could not be more grateful that you approached me to co-host this year's symposium, and we have had this occasion to work together. I equally would like to thank the Philadelphia Museum of Art's affinity group, TechNA, for sponsoring this symposium. TechNA's programming focuses on international craft and is always very dynamic. So on behalf of everyone at CraftNOW, I will say it is an honor to be recorded among your events. If I may speak a moment about what brings us here, the organization CraftNOW Philadelphia was founded 6 years ago to unite, support, and promote this exceptional talent among us and the importance of craft to the largest possible audience. An example of one of our recent projects is our second publication, Craft Capital, Philadelphia's Cultures of Making, released globally this spring. We do this work because it is our core belief that craft is a great unifier and convener. People from all walks of life, all ethnicities, age groups, and neighborhoods can and do make things. At CraftNOW, we work together to demonstrate how makers and their supporting institutions are important for this community and they generate value. This symposium series is part of the Craft Month activities we host every November. Today, we are examining the craft through the theme Cultures of Making, which we borrowed from the subtitle of the book I just mentioned to highlight the many ways research, activism, and connection develop out of craft practices all over the country. We also have a couple more programs on the horizon. Tomorrow, on Saturday, November 7th, we will be hosting Philadelphia's biggest free art class. We have created 500 take-home kits and distributed them to galleries and access centers across the city. If you have an elementary age child that would be interested, please visit our website to follow along. Even if you don't have a kit, we have listed all of the materials you're going to need. And one last thing I would like to mention before we start, it is our own annual fundraiser coming up this year to include a special auction that is currently open for bidding. We will be closing the auction with a live program next Saturday, November 14th. Our past symposium keynote speakers, Glenn Adamson, Michelle Fisher, Roberto Lugo, and Abraham Thomas are planning to join us. And this is going to be a casual virtual gathering to include some scholarly information, as well as a few entertaining surprises. To learn more about CraftNOW programs, please visit our website, craftnowphila.org, and consider a donation to help us continue our work. With that, we have given all of our official remarks. Any latecomers have had a chance to sign on, and all of you have been able to settle in, and I am very excited to begin this afternoon's program. As a reminder, we ask that you remain muted until the end, at which point we will be inviting you to all unmute yourselves and have your videos on so that we can share a moment of conversation together. We also suggest using speaker view during presentations. Our presenters will be eager to hear your questions, so please put them in the chat along with your name and where you are joining us from so that we may share them during the afternoon.